My company, Vista AST, helps make the community a better place by offering its educational technology products for the K-12 students. Our programs really empower students to think beyond the subjects that they learn in school and apply the knowledge that they acquire. Students learn about science and technology, engineering and mathematics, but we incorporate the use of digital fabrication tools like 3D printing that really allows students to take their ideas and use these technologies to transform their ideas into reality. The ability to do so really empowers students to use their creativity, communication, and critical thinking skills. And that can really transform students, particularly in these days when our educational system is going through a transformational change and many students will now be using distance learning. The ability to work independently and use these technologies will be very important. What I think people would be surprised to learn about Vista AST is really the number of really very interesting projects that we have done all across the country. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to take our technologies and our tools and resources for a very small company with only 5 full-time employees and build fabulous maker spaces and bring learning resources to students throughout the country and actually throughout the world. We've even been able to bring our printers to a school in Slovakia to using our printers, so it really has an international influence. I think sometimes in our community we look at our company and say it can't happen in Youngstown, but there are wonderful things happening with companies in Youngstown that are really making significant changes in the lives of people of all ages and all disciplines. I think what people would be very surprised to learn about me personally is that I was terribly, painfully shy growing up. Horribly shy, to the point that I wouldn't even wear white tennis shoes because I didn't want anybody to notice me. When I went to college, I even had to take freshman speech, which I somehow was able to kick down to my last course when I was getting ready to graduate from college, and I had to almost beg to get out of it, but was unable to. What was transformational though for me is I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and took an internship, which really forced me to engage with the public and work with individuals of all different backgrounds. And because of that experience, it really helped me overcome that fear of shyness. What makes me feel good about the future is that even in this time of crisis, we've had the COVID-19 pandemic, and right now at this point we're suffering through terrible racial unrest in our community, is that I really do believe that there's still a sense of unity in our country. I think there really are leaders, both young and old, from backgrounds of all types, who really believe in our community and believe in the power of change. I think sometimes we become so divisiveness, but I still have that faith that in our country and in our world, we have the ability, we have the power within us, we have the capability that we can make these changes to help make both our country, our community, and our world a much better place. What most concerns me about the world today is really the level of divisiveness that we have. That the people seem to rage one against the other, black against white, males against female, young against old, rural communities against urban communities. There's a sense that is it scarcity? Is it there's not enough to go around? That somehow if I win, you lose? That's something that really concerns me in our community, is that there's this antagonistic undertone to so many of our interactions, that any idea that is offered forth by any individual is almost automatically an opportunity to be vilified. And I think that sometimes some of our technology tools allow us to do that because we can hide behind a wall and skewer people without any ramification or that personal connection that we would have if we would be speaking to people eye to eye and sharing and discussing these ideas in a more rational, sane way. I think what would make our community, our world, our society a better place in which to thrive and grow is that oftentimes if people would just take 5 seconds before they react, 10 seconds. You know, so often I think we're so anxious to respond. We have an answer for that. There's an email, there's a text. And we don't step back and really think about what's being asked of us or what's being said. We don't filter this, we don't process this, we just react. And there are things that can't be unsaid and things that can't be unseen. And I think that if we would spend just a few seconds before we would react, I think that much of this divisiveness, much of this, these reactions, this anger that we see in our society, perhaps we could tamp down on if people would just take a few seconds to think about their responses before they shared them. What practical advice I'd give a young person entering the workforce today is really kind of a two-part question, or two-part answer, I guess. I have a 16-year-old son, and so he's just beginning to work. So I've counseled him in take pride in what you do regardless of what you do. For example, I pay him to cut the grass. That means you have to cut all the grass and trim the grass. You should take pride in your work no matter what the job is. And knowing that every job that you have along the way really is, it's a building brick, it's foundational to where you're going in your career. When I look back at the arc of my career and where I started and where I've ended up and the opportunities that I've had in the industries and the people that I've met, it's really made me, in large part, who I am. The second is kind of a personal observation, but I think it does lend to the career and workplace, is you have to be careful with who you choose to associate with, and you need to be very thoughtful about that. Whether that's your friends or the person with whom you have a personal or intimate relationship, you need to understand yourself and your values. You have to maintain your integrity and not compromise your ideals, and then make those choices as to who you associate and how you conduct yourself. If I had the opportunity to share a thought with the community or the world, the nation, I like to tell them this isn't a zero-sum game. Life is not a zero-sum game. Oftentimes I've sat in meetings and talked to people about opportunities where we could develop a project or collaborate, and we all agree that this is a good idea and we're going to work together, and then we go back to our respective organizations and we start to second think that and think about how, well, if I give this up, if I collaborate, I may lose something. And it's not a zero-sum game. We can really grow the pie. We can raise, a rising ship or a rising water raises all ships. I do believe that it's not a zero-sum game, and that truly by working together in a meaningful, collaborative way, we can help transform this world.